Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We will get started, I just know from experience that many people just join in the next few minutes as we kind of get started here. So let me welcome you to our webinar for April. My name is Kathy Logsdon. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director here at Epworth Villa. We're going to kind of introduce our guest today, and he's going to give a little bio, a little background, and then we'll jump right into some of our subjects. And at the end, we'll take some questions from you. So at the bottom of your screen, click the Q&A button, and you can type it in there, and it will give me the questions as we're talking, and then we'll get to those at the end. We'll try to stop at 10:30, but if we really have a lot of questions and a lot of folks have some questions they want to get to, I will try to do that. We might go a little bit over. I want to tell you just right off the bat here that we're not here to tell you what to do with your finances. We're not here to give recommendations about your investments. And I don't give recommendations on videos like this to tell you which plan you need to pick at Epworth Villa or a community like that. What we're here to do is give you good information, kind of give you some scenarios of what other clients do and how we both counsel them and help them and get the information to them that they need to know to make a really good decision. So with all that said, I'm going to introduce you to Oliver Norman of the Coventry Group here in Oklahoma City, actually Nichols Hills. Oliver, welcome.
Good morning, Kathy. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to start by saying you can give a little bit of your background, and we know that obviously you are not born and raised in Oklahoma. Would that be correct?
That is correct. I wasn't born and raised in Ada. I have been doing this in financial services for 15 years, both in England and in overseas. I was originally born in England, but I married a charming girl from Norman, and I've been here for the last 8 years.
Very good. So you're an official Okie now. So you're qualified to just talk our language, and we love listening to you. So why don't you give us a little bit of kind of your career experience and what you do there at Coventry, and then we'll start with my first question I want to ask you.
Certainly. Well, I started off in England working for the Royal Bank of Scotland and HSBC, and my career has really predominantly been about financial planning. That's what I do. That's what I love. And I was invited to come and work for Covenant as you mentioned, we're located very close to Nichols Hills. We're here at the Waterford. And really, I have a huge passion for helping our clients. And like I mentioned, I've been doing this for a little over 15 years. Covenant, we have a very deep bench. We have of people on staff. We have CPAs, certified financial planners, I'm one of them, and also certified financial analysts as well. And we manage approximately around $2.9 billion. So and we've got offices in San Antonio, Bernie, and Dallas and Oklahoma City as well. And we do a lot of work with individuals, and we love to assist them with their financial planning needs. And long-term care and retirement planning in particular has been an area of which we have a lot of particular interest in being able to help a lot of our clients with as well.
Well, great. We met through just you and some of your teammates there wanting information and gathering information to educate yourselves. And so we've known each other for a little while, and you've helped some of your clients navigate the process here at Epworth. But we're here to talk about the overall process anywhere. So let me start out by asking you, when your clients call you or reach out to you, how do they start the conversation about wanting to discuss maybe doing something like a move to a retirement community or senior community like Epworth?
What's interesting, Kathy, is that actually, with the way we do this covenant is that we actually start the conversation early, and we don't even talk about finances at this stage. It's really, we start the conversation around what would you like to happen, and it's centered around 4 different areas, and I'll speak particularly to the first 2, which the first one is living transitions, driving transitions, financial and medical transitions as well. Those are the 4 that we talk about. But specifically when it comes to living transitions, and we typically try and we have this conversation early on in the relationship, and the time to have these kind of conversations, Kathy, is it's almost when it's not a problem. So really, when we talk about living transitions, we talk about, where do you want to live? We have some people who say, you know what, I want to stay at home. And we have other people who say, I would like to consider moving to a facility at some point. And also, what does that look like? Would you like to go through a continuing care retirement community, like where you start off at independent living? And the key thing is that we have that conversation early, Kathy, because that will determine the next steps we want to take. For example, if you want to stay at home, how close is the grocery stores and the restaurants? How do you get medical care? How are you going to interact with others? And these kind of things as well. And to what extent is your home aging friendly? Those kind of key questions are really important to ascertain long before there's any kind of number crunching. So really, that's the first part, which is living transitions. And Kathy, would you like to hear a bit more about the driving transitions as well? That's another component which we do. So when it comes to the driving transitions as well, I mean, there are some great, the key question which we have as well with this is, when are you going to hand over the keys? That's an important question which a lot of people address. And there are so many assumptions that we have. Well, my daughter's going to take care of me, or my son's going to do the maintenance on my house, for example. Well, do they know that? That's those kind of key, crucial conversations. And we talk to our clients about a lot of things, like when it comes to driving transitions. For example, have you considered purchasing a new car? There has been a quantum leap in terms of safety features which have been added particularly over the last 5 years as well. And even possibly the effects of medication on driving. America is one of the most over-medicated countries in the world. And if there are people who are driving on medication, at what point do you have to evaluate that and to assess the risks associated with it? So those are a few of the things. And also as well, Kathy, as we go and dig deeper into these kind of conversations, there are some great resources that are available to people now. AARP, they do some wonderful work in terms of defensive driving for seniors, and you can also get discounts on your car insurance as well with certain providers after you go through that. We also have clients as well where we help them with utilizing technology to make their lives that little bit more easier, such as whether it be installing Uber on your phone, or even maybe just having a camera on the floor so you can see how mom and dad are doing, and just check in just to see if there's foot movement, for example. So there are all sorts of things which we discuss, which can help lead to this path of what's the right move for you.
Great. That's great information. Tell me about one of the things that they're most concerned about, the biggest overwhelming factor that they're trying to resolve in their minds. I know what it is for us when we're talking to folks, but tell me on your end, what are they most concerned about? Is it money running out, their real estate, giving up something, all of the above?
Yeah, all of the above, Kathy. The big one which we've seen for many people, their house is a significant part of their assets, but it also carries an emotional attachment as well. I mean, we often speak with people who, I mean, they've been in their homes for decades, many of the times, and really making that decision, it's not a snap decision. It takes some time. And really, as our role as financial planners, it's participating in that evaluation to really assist someone of not just what to do, but what's the timing involved with something like that as well. The cost component, obviously, as planners, we go through and we we break that down to make sure it's achievable and manageable, etc. But I would say, certainly for a lot of people, the emotional attachment of moving is very, very big. And the other consideration with that as well, Kathy, is yes, you might be, when you come to a facility like Epworth or an independent living facility, you also have to be aware of just the human interaction components. We were speaking to some individuals, and they loved their house, but they also really appreciated the fact that they were out in rural Oklahoma, and frankly, they didn't want to be around too many people, and that was important to them. So Kathy, you hit it right on the head. All of those are great factors to consider, but those are one that the emotional attachment to the home is a particularly big one, which we've encountered.
Well, I will tell you that moving with our clients that we counsel, what they do here at Epworth Villa is an emotional decision.
Yes.
There is logic to it. Does it make sense financially? Does it make sense for the long-term planning? We call it managing the aging process. And it is emotional. When you get right down to it, this is an emotional decision, and we understand that. So let's pivot a little bit and talk about, we know it's emotional. We know all the components that go with that, memories, sentimental things. Let's talk about your clients and their concerns about when to sell their real estate asset. What do they do with that once they sell it? If they're not going to use it all at a place like Epworth or somewhere else for an initial fee, talk to me about what the conversation is, how you approach that with them and help them through that process.
So the way this works, Kathy, is when they've made a decision as to where they want to go, and after taking into account their assets, if they were to sell their home, for example, we use various different scenarios and modeling techniques. What if you were to sell your home at this X amount of dollars, etc. And then in addition to that as well, we can model and project if there's money left over, for example, Kathy, where does that go? How does that get invested? And what would be a reasonable rate of return to expect based on their situation? So the way that's how we have those discussion points really surrounding that. And then in addition, Kathy, depending on people's scenarios, it can be very plausible that they move to a facility and they end up spending less than what they're spending at the moment. It could well be a downsizing move. So it's not just about the entrance fee or how much did I make from the sale of my property. It's also about the ongoing cost of living moving forward, and what assurances are baked into that contract. For example, depending on whether you go for life care or fee for service, for example, what's included, what's excluded, what do we need to account for, and then also, for example, if there's a long-term care policy involved, to what extent will that help with the costs? And again, that separate issue, but all of those kind of factors go into addressing that question so that we can plan an appropriate roadmap moving forward.
Great. That is perfect. So let's talk about timing and the objections that you might hear to moving at all. I will say this to you. Our competitor over the last 3-4 years, especially this last year, is folks not making a move at all. It's not necessarily any of our fellow competitors here in the metropolitan area. It is staying at home and not doing anything, which to us, we say, well, that's not really a decision, but it is. Tell me about the objections you hear. I know what we hear and what we deal with, but what do you hear? Because this is about doing what's right for them. We try to counsel people that way, not just, we just want to get all the move-ins at Epworth we can possibly get no matter what. It's about counseling and really with good integrity. And I know you feel the same way about your clients.
That's right.
Tell me about their objections, how you help them work that out, how you help them figure out what timing, financial or emotional, whichever, or both, what that looks like.
So one of the, and it's not really an objection, but it's really just a statement of, for example, I want to stay in my own house, and the reason why is because this is the place which I've grown up with, and that is absolutely fine. But one of the considerations we need to have with that, for example, Kathy, is, well, let's talk through that. To what extent is the home aging friendly? If for example, if you have arthritis and you have doorknobs, well, that could be extremely painful to be using those. And then, so right, let's talk about what modifications we need to make that home more comfortable for you to live in. So looking to replace with handles. Another one is if you want to stay there for the remainder of your life, and for example, if dementia were to manifest itself, what about the gun collection you have? The open top stove? Those kind of questions as well. How are we going to make that home more aging friendly? And then there's the other considerations, such as in-home nursing care as well. Kathy, let's face it, there is no kind of long-term care where the costs are going to go down. There's only degrees at which they're going to go up, right? So again, factoring those into the plan, and again, that's one of the questions for any facility is there a cap on what you can increase those costs by? Because that's why we want to build those margins in, those guardrails in the financial plan. That's a very important piece of the puzzle as well. Typically the other concerns are with any move, like when it comes to location, I call it the 3 Fs. I mean, it's family, friends, and familiarity. Is this somewhere I would be comfortable with? So often it's not uncommon that when there are concerns, it's a process, and time is the big thing here, because we encourage our clients to go and visit the respective facilities 2, 3, 4 times. Go and have the vibe there. Go and sit down and take lunch there, and see, just observe the interaction with the other individuals. It's all part of the process, Kathy, and it's very important.
Great. Well, I will say, based on this past year, we are getting back into inviting our guests for lunch. That'll be happening in the coming weeks. Good. And our residents are all enjoying the restaurants and kind of getting back to normal, so to speak. And so events are happening. So I would say you are absolutely correct. And the average, what I found over the years is the average people usually visit us at least 3 times. Yes. Before they move forward. You know, it's not like they come, they visit, they look at a few things, and then 24 hours later, they're making a decision. Yes. It is very much what you said. It's family, it's friends, it's familiarity. So that is exactly what you should be talking to them about, because that's what matters in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And Kathy, I'm also aware that there'll be people on this call who might be, where do I even start? How do I even get a grasp of what the reality is, what the likelihood of me needing long-term care or some kind of assistance? According to the data, 7 out of 10 people will require some kind of long-term care in their lifetime, and particularly with the number of baby boomers that we have turning 65. I mean, that number's getting certainly increasing. And there is a fantastic website. It's if you go to genworth.com, it will tell you, you can calculate the cost of care in your area, and it's a really helpful, whether it's in-home care or community and assisted living, nursing home facilities. It's all there, and you can type in Oklahoma City and it gives you the rates there, and also the changes as well over the past year. So I hope someone will find that useful as well as a resource.
Yeah. Genworth, a big insurance company that's a big provider of long-term care. We see it quite a bit here. Folks have policies, GENWORTH.com, Genworth. That's a great resource. We have a statistic that we have been quoting that we received from our consultant, that something different or maybe negative happens to anyone over the age of 80 about every 6 months that might change their circumstances. And I think the biggest thing or hurdle to kind of get reality on when we're talking to folks is that things aren't going to stay just like they are, even though you want them to. Things
Yes.
are going to change, and being prepared for that change is better than letting the change dictate what you do as a result. So this is about planning. You do financial planning, but you really do life planning. And we do managing the aging process, but you really managed life for a lot of folks in a lot of ways.
That's really a big part of what we do, Kathy, because you need to, there's a human element to this, right? I mean, it's not just all about numbers. So we want to make sure that we really do life with our clients. And I think you made the good point as well. I mean, it's about the time to have these conversations is before it becomes crucial. I remember when I first moved to Oklahoma and I was doing my estate planning, and my father-in-law, he's an attorney, and he was like, Oliver, the time to talk about your durable power of attorney is when you don't need to talk about it. And that's the key thing, because it's a lot more relaxed. There's no pressure there. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And those are the kind of conversations we try and facilitate. The other thing is as well, Kathy, which I'll mention, to the extent that people are comfortable with communicating with family members about expectations around that. I've heard the scenario time and time again. Oh, my daughter will drive me around, or and it's like, oh, well, do they know that? And if so, what kind of consideration, if any, do you want to provide for your daughter, either during life or at death, for example? Those kind of, and often it might be, well, I've never really thought about that. And well, those are the kind of things which might just prompt some additional planning as well.
I want to bring that point up too, because we communicate more now than ever with adult children of folks considering this. How much interaction do you have, or do people want you to have with their families as they're going through this process? Do they want you to talk to their family members, or do they want to make the decision on their own with you and then tell them what they're going to do?
Typically, Kathy, it's more the latter, that, hey, we want to talk it through with you, and then we'll communicate with family members. What we do offer, I mean, we will of course go by any client's wishes. If they do want family members to be present, more than happy to accommodate that. We do a lot of that on the estate work, where it's, hey, what's the role of the children, either in the form of a power of attorney capacity, or estate plan, or as a trustee, or as an executor. And often we like to do family meetings there if the client wants that. So we're very collaborative, but we want to be sensitive to whatever's most comfortable to the client.
Very good. I would encourage everyone that has a question for Oliver, type it in the Q&A. Some people joined late. So if you have a question that you would like us to address on your behalf, as long as it's not telling you what to invest in, or whether or not to buy something or not, or which contract you need to do, it takes a little bit more process of discovery to do that personally. So if you have a question for Mr. Norman, okay, here's a good one. Thank you. If you have a good long-term care insurance policy, if the pay for services plan is the best way to go. So he's talking about the fee for service, like what Epworth offers, and most communities like ours offer what they call a fee for service entry fee plan. If someone has a really good long-term care policy like that, with good monthly, what we call daily benefit that pays, and maybe it has a good cost of living increase attached to it as well. What does that look like when you're approaching that in a financial plan for the future kind of way?
Absolutely. That's the right question. So the way we do that, we will go and evaluate the long-term care policy, look at the benefits. You made the great point about the cost of living adjustment. Things like that are a factor. And we look at the benefit, and we see how that would be applied to the projected assisted living or memory care. So in other words, we take into account the benefits of the policy, and that is factored into our ultimate cash flow projections. And let me just talk a little bit about the cash flow projections which we have. Our goal is we want to try and typically make sure that our clients, that their money outlives them. And like anything, it's based on what your lifestyle objectives are, your legacy objectives, and your philanthropic objectives are. And so in answer to the question, we factor the benefits of the long-term care into the, let's just take the fee for service, for example, and then see how that dovetails with your overall objectives when it comes to your financial plan.
So on our end, and this speaks to what you're talking about too, when we put into our spreadsheet, so to speak, with actuarial tables, projections for the care needs of individuals, male or female, and at their age, we factor in that long-term care amount as well, cost of living increases as well. And at the end of the projection, it gives us a percentage of number one, that person running out of assets before the end of their life. But it also projects if their assets will increase as a result of their long-term care, and maybe as a result of maybe the other plan that they might choose at a community like Epworth. Does yours do that as well? We do.
We run a stress test on our plans that we do, and it gives a probability of success. So very similar to, I'm sure, Kathy, something very similar to what you're talking about. Yes.
A stress test, not like a heart stress test.
Not a heart stress test. No.
A financial stress test.
Exactly. That's right. Lots of different iterations. What if we, with varying degrees of scenarios, if we had another bull run, or if we had another crash, etc., those kind of things. So we do all of that here at Covenant. Yeah.
So to this gentleman's questions, it's quite possible fee for service might be the perfect plan for someone that has a very stellar long-term care policy and kind of has that already factored into their financial plan. And it could be that is perfect for them, but that's a personal thing based on their numbers, their age, and what those benefits are. So running that kind of scenario would be a great thing to find out the differences between the two, and what ultimately it's what you end up with at the end of your life expectancy. I think that's what everybody wants to know. What am I going to have left projected? We always say, we don't know, if we knew financially or medically exactly what was going to happen, we would do exactly the right thing financially, but we don't know that. So the thing that we do is we give you the most information, and that's what you are telling me you do as well. And we take all that information and we make the best decision we can possibly make based on the criteria that we're following. So that's great. Here's another question. Can a retirement community like Epworth, that's a life plan, that it's a pathway to future care and how you're going to pay for it, is that a good way to perhaps preserve my assets?
And the answer is, it depends. We've had clients who have downsized from their property, and one of the benefits that they really like about a retirement community is that they know pretty much the vast majority of what the expenses are. They know how much that's going to go up by, and moreover, as a result of the sale of their property, it's a liquidity event, and they've had leftover money which could be invested, all of which adds to in their mind, the long-term comfort of knowing what the guardrails are. And frankly, in terms of preserving assets, they've actually seen that we ran the side-by-side, stay where you are with your continued living expenses versus moving to a retirement community. And I'm not saying this is for everyone, but in that specific scenario, that it was a benefit for them in order to make that decision, and it helped preserve their assets long term, particularly because they had legacy goals as to what they wanted to leave for their family, and also some philanthropic goals as well.
Right.
And Kathy, if I could also mention one thing, I'm very aware, for a lot of people, this is a huge minefield. It is a financial minefield.
Mhm.
It is an emotional minefield. And I would really just say small baby steps, and even just listening to this webinar, it can be very easy to think, oh wow, I'm overwhelmed. There's legal considerations, financial considerations, relational considerations. I would just encourage you just to just with baby steps. I know whether it's staff at Epworth, there are many tremendous financial planners out there. Utilize your team and really start just talking about these considerations, because you don't know what you don't know. And I just, you don't have to, we don't have to have decisions made by 4 o'clock on Monday, because this is a process, and it's an evolving process as well.
Right.
How you feel today might be very different in 18 months from now. So it's good just to think through these things.
Yes, and I would say you are absolutely right. Start somewhere. Don't stick your head in the sand and pretend that your life is never going to change, that your health will always be what it is today, and your house will not deteriorate if something happens to your health. Those are all statements, people just, it's like a reality check. And sometimes once you face that giant and take, like you said, little bite-sized pieces, one step at a time, but start the process. At the end of the day, once you have all this information and you've made a decision that you really have peace with, you're going to have a burden lifted off that you didn't realize you were carrying all along, and a gift to your family and children that they will thank you for later, because planning and managing this before they have to is just the best gift. I have another question. So based on the long-term care policies that you have and you have seen over, say, the last 5 years, 10 years, is an average $250 a day, is that a good benefit? We've seen everything here. So is $250 a day with a cost of living increases, with annual increases, the general amount I see is about 5% a year, it goes up. Is that pretty good in relationship to what you see?
Yeah, I would want to review the whole of the whole of the policy, for example. But yeah, I mean, certainly, those numbers, I've seen those a number of times, and yeah, that seems. I've seen that a number of times. I want to review the whole policy, for example. Right. But yeah, certainly, $250 a day, like anything, it makes a dent into that overall cost, and I want to make sure that. Because it's not just what does it pay today, it's also what does it pay when that's going to be needed to kick in as well.
Right.
Kathy, the other thing is, I'm telling you, we have these conversations. It's important for us when we have these conversations. It's not just with clients who are looking into retirement communities. We have conversations with clients whose parents are looking to do this as well. Right. And we have the same conversation just in terms of the factors to take in. So we empower the children to maybe also, where appropriate, facilitate them to have these crucial conversations as well.
Yes, so that's always hard. I find it difficult when adult children are helping parents kind of navigate this process. They've never asked their parents generally, well, what do your finances look like? That's an uncomfortable question. They don't want to do that.
That's right.
That's where someone like you or a financial planner can really step in and assist them and kind of help them along where, their kids kind of have a general idea, but they don't. Not a lot of people don't discuss that and don't want to discuss it.
And Kathy, if I may, I mean, I've explained maybe some of the concerns which I see as a financial advisor. What are some of the concerns you see for people looking to move to Epworth, for example? What are the big?
I think we see a lot. No matter how well, lots of times, no matter how well someone has saved or invested, or if they have just a modest investment account, they don't have maybe $1 million in their investments. Maybe it's quite a bit less than that. The big myth is you can't afford to live here unless you're a multimillionaire. Not true at all. And my counseling and my other counselors, we really dig into what is your plan? How, if you need assisted living, memory support, long-term care, 5 years, 10 years from now, how are you going to pay for that? Have you thought about it? If you don't have long-term care insurance, what does that look like? Would you like a predictable amount of money that you can rely on, that is going to be your outlay, that you think that you can afford to take care of that? Will that help you kind of cover all your bases? And we go through that with folks because they don't really know what the future looks like. Neither do we. This is about managing that no matter kind of where you land, knowing what the statistics are. I love those that you brought up. 7 out of 10 of us are going to need some higher level of care. People, you know, there are two kinds of people that we kind of communicate with. The emotional ones that do not want to see that or talk about it or envision themselves at a higher level. And then there's the others that are planners, logical thinkers that want to take care of that way before it happens. So it's usually two different kinds of folks that we counsel with, and it is emotional either side.
Yes, and Kathy as well. Like one of the things which I hear a lot about as well, it's an important point. Well, what if something happened to my spouse, and my spouse needs memory care, but I want to stay in independent living, because proximity matters. Proximity
Right.
matters, and it's navigating those scenarios as well, which is very important. So those are some of the other considerations as well, which come up when we're having these conversations.
Before we hop off, we're a little bit over, but one of the things that we let people decide on their own based on their needs, and you would be a perfect person to address this. If I invest that in a place like Epworth, the entry fee, whether it's $40,000, whether it's $500,000, we have everything in between here. We have studio apartments all the way up to large cottages and everything in between. And so talking about entry fee, it's really personal based on what size of a home you want, how many people there are, and what is your refund desire. So if someone is really wanting to leave as many assets as they can to their family, but at the same time, they want to manage the process of paying financially for whatever levels of care. You have a model. Do you plug in like the amortizing refund like we have at Epworth? That's no refund after 5 years, or the 90% refundable?
That's right.
Does that factor into your spreadsheet as well?
That's exactly right. We do both of those depending, and we do a compare and contrast. Again, just like is the $250 benefit, is that good? The answer is it depends. It just depends on what your objectives are, and so exactly, Kathy. We can and we do both.
Well, there are folks that we counsel with that they maybe don't have children, or they don't have any heirs, or their children have plenty of money and they are not concerned about leaving their assets to their family members. That's a little bit on the other side. They want to invest as little as possible up front here, and they want to spend their money. They want to enjoy their life. And so one of the things that they will ask us, because we have benevolent clauses in both of our contracts, if you get approved here and health assessment wise and financially, once you sign your contract, we are taking care of you in the levels of care we provide as long as you're on this campus. If you don't dissipate your assets willfully, like give all your money away and then tell us you can't pay your monthly. But other than that, that benevolent clause is an important part of what we do, especially with folks that don't have millions of dollars, and they're concerned about that. So I would ask as well if the communities you're looking at have a benevolent clause, because we don't know what's going to happen financially to the world. Or, I mean, we'd like to project that, you know, the stock market's always going to come back and it's always going to be strong and everything's going to go just like we want it to. but preparing for the unseen is what we do. And I know that's what you do too.
Yeah. And Kathy, I'll throw another question at you, if I may. If I was your brother, sweep aside the accent for one moment, but if I was your brother, what would you say would be the first place to start if you're looking to explore here? Where would you get started?
Is it for you, my brother, or is it for your parents?
Yeah, I should have clarified that. For my parents.
Okay, so I would begin by determining, first of all, do they need to be near me? If they are an hour away, and I am, let's say, in Oklahoma City or Edmond area, if they're an hour away, what does that look like if they have a health issue and I'm working and having to drive back and forth to where they live to try to help them? Do they need to be near me so I can support them a little bit more? Yeah. That's the first thing, location. The second thing would be, what are your financial situation look like? What can you afford? You can go out and look at all kinds of retirement communities in Oklahoma City and Edmond, but if you don't know, the first question they're going to ask you is, do you have a budget? What are you looking for, a rental? Are you looking for a long-term plan to manage higher levels of care later? What's your goal here? Yeah. And then what do you want your lifestyle to look at? What are you missing at home that you don't have that you really miss? And so we talk about all that, and then you can start narrowing down the communities that you want to go look at and really narrow down. I would say no more than 3, because anything over that gets a little hazy and you get them all confused.
Yes.
But determine the long-term goal and what you want accomplished, and then start looking at least 3.
Yep. And Kathy, one objection or concern which we've seen is, look, okay, I'm willing to take the plunge, and I want to really explore the moving to a retirement community. But what if I move there and 6 months down the line, it's just not what I expected? I miss my home. I need my own. I need to be. This is just not working out for me. How do I get out? What's the exit strategy? That's the other thing. And
sure.
If you'd like to speak to that's very important.
I would be glad to speak to that. Well, in the case of someone that's on a 5-year amortizing refund, I would say that the likelihood of you making that decision, you've probably decided that you're going to invest here with the likelihood that you're going to live at least 5 years and you're not going to get a refund on the entry fee, which would be much smaller than the alternative. The other scenario that we can sometimes, if you are really worried about that fact, we have the ability, in some cases, it's by approval process, to give you a satisfaction guarantee. That's how solid we are, that if you make the right decision and we help you, counsel you, and we're pretty sure you've made the right decision for you, we can give you a satisfaction guarantee that you have up to 12 months to perhaps, if it doesn't work out, change your mind, move out, cancel your contract, and we'll refund your entry fee upon the resale of your unit. So that is the extreme, that someone just is really worried they're not going to love it. The other one I would say is, if you think there's a chance that if your spouse passes, you might want to move close to the other daughter or the other son or whatever, or it may be you're not 100% certain that you want to live the next 15, 20 years in Oklahoma City. You might choose the 90% option, because that's going to secure you a 90% refund if you cancel your contract and decide to move. As soon as we resell, we'll kick that back to your estate or to you or wherever you've told us you want it to go. So that's what I would say. Once you sign this, it's not forever. It's meant to be long-term plan so that you have peace of mind and you've got your bases covered here and you can live life. But it does have some caveats that give you flexibility. So that's important because people want to know, I am not going to be somewhere that is not right for me if things change in 4 or 5 years or whatever. So yes, we have flexibility is what I'm trying to say. Great question. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I've got a few here, but I think we need to wrap it up. We are 15 minutes over because you are an excellent presenter and guest, and we had great insight here. I hope people really got something out of this. And if you have questions or if you would like a video, we will put this up on YouTube once we edit it a little bit and get it looking a little bit better. And it'll also be on our Epworth Villa blog. At the bottom of the Epworth Villa website, there's a little tab that says news. You can tap on that and you can see all the webinars we've done, most of them this year, and this one will be there as well. And Oliver, I will get you a copy of this as well. Anybody that was not able to join, we are going to send it to them, and we will be glad to send it to anyone that would like to have it. So thank you, Oliver Norman. You were great today, and we really appreciate it. We didn't get to every subject, but we got to a lot. And we might do this again later. We'd love to have you back. If people will send me some questions through the website info line, I will make sure we get those answered next time and we kind of get to those subjects. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Have a
Kathy.
great day. Thank you, Oliver. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.